Now, the next stage also would be is now your child is saying approximations. You're asking during a game, they're really motivated for the game, so they're attempting to say things verbally. How to help them get to the next stage in terms of being very, very specific. And I'm going to answer this question because I always sent some questions earlier about how to precisely do that. But the first thing that when you're thinking of how to help your child use their language more specifically, go from approximation, let's say, of draw, maybe they say de, or maybe they're saying or, to using the whole thing together. The first thing you want to do is understand how you say the word you're asking your child to say in the first place. And so you want to take a moment and close your eyes and say the word that you're asking your child to say. Maybe it's the word draw. So I might close my eyes and go draw, draw, draw. Now how do I say that? I've got to put my lips out first. Draw, draw. I put my tongue right here. And then I open my mouth. So there's a 3-step stage. But in order to help my child do that 3-step stage, I've got to know how it works myself. So if the word is apple, you're going to close your eyes and think apple, apple. That's even more complex. That's like 4 steps. But if you put some attention to it, you'll know what your child has to do first, second, and third to actually produce that sound. So, there is a question for all you lovely people out there that I can explain this in more detail to. So, for instance, this is from Karen from Malaysia. All the way in Malaysia, that's amazing. I'm so excited that I'm talking to you in Malaysia. Hi Karen. And her son is Sean, and he'll be 5 this weekend, so happy birthday to Sean. And her question is, when he was 4 years old, his former speech therapist advised us that he will never acquire speech because he was still hardly making sounds. We've since stopped his speech therapy. That was in, she writes here. However, he has recently begun to imitate sounds. And utter partial words, many single syllables, and he still struggles with 2 syllables. So her question is there a possibility that he can naturally progress to double or multiple syllables? Well, absolutely there's a possibility that he will progress to that. Is there anything I can do to facilitate this progress? Absolutely, and I'm going to talk about that now. Also, there was another child called Olivia. She's 4 years old. And she can say words that have 1 syllable, a bit like our Shawnee boy here. And in the first syllable, so she can say the first syllable of words, but not the second syllable of words. So, for example, she'll say bot, not for bot, but not bottle. So she doesn't put the O on the end. And she'll say cub, but not cupboard. So the question here is, how can she help her say the whole of the word? Alright, so the question, I believe, is very similar for Olivia and for Sean, and probably for many of you out there. So this is where, when you're in the game, right, or let's say in terms of bottle, let's go with bottle, because that was one of the specifics that you gave us. So maybe Olivia's at the shelf and she's pointing to the bottle, and she's saying bot. Alright, how do you help her say the 2 sounds together? Alright. One thing to do is, like I said before, is really figure out what she has to do. Bottle, tull, tull. So what you do is you figure out how you say that and then really tell her. So she's pointing to bottle. I'm going to celebrate her and respond. So I'm going to respond by going to the shelf and saying, that was, yes, I'm going to get you the bottle. That was so close. Now look how you say it. You say tull. So put your lips out and your tongue. And if your child allows you, and only if your child allows you, maybe you can go over to their mouth and tull and just like prompt them a little bit by just squeezing it in so they do that rounding. Tull. And then explain in detail. Olivia, you've got to put your tongue right at the back to do the tul. And you really help them do that. And really explain. Sometimes when we go over to the mirror and really show them in the mirror and they can see that themselves, that really, really helps them too. So explain in detail and then show them in the mirror. So I don't know what words Sean is having challenges saying, but you would do a similar thing there. Also, something else that you can do that I think is really profoundly useful is our children learn in so many ways. So if our children can say the beginning of words and they're not saying the end of words with the first syllable, sometimes what happens is maybe they're not hearing it. Maybe they're not hearing it as the same word. Maybe they're hearing it as separate words. Our children learn so differently. Some of our children learn visually, some rhythmically, some musically, some physically. So in this case, what we would suggest is, and we'll use the word bottle because that's the word, but we could use a different word. But let's use the word, let's say bubble. Maybe your child can say bub, but not bubble. Then I would write out the two different syllables. We have bub and we have bull. Now, I really hope you can see both of these because I really can't see myself and what you can see. Can you see them both? Yeah? I have my friends here who are helping me. You see them? Okay. So write them on two different sentences. And when you say bubble, especially if your child is very, very visual, then point to it. Bub, bull. It's bub, bull. So that they can see that there are two sounds to say. Bub, bull. And then ask them to say it. Come on, let's do it together. Bub, bull. Sometimes if our children are more rhythmically, then you might go over and tap them on the back. It's bub, bull. You can say bub, bull. And just tap them on the shoulder. Bub, bull. Come on, let's say it together. Bub, bull. So they can feel that there are two sounds together. If your child is more physical, maybe put these on the floor and have them jump. Bub, bull. From one to the other. I don't think you can see me down there. But anyway, so you would literally jump together. Bub, bull. And chant. Bub, bull. Bub, bull. And give your child that physical experience. We had a question too about a sing-song that hang on, let's see. I think it was up here. Maybe it was here. A question where he tended to say sounds, but he would sing them. So don't be afraid to sing all your requests. Bubble, bubble. If our children are using their sounds and their words in a sing-songy voice, then let's request that way. Maybe they can hear that better. Maybe they'll be more motivated to do that. So you can sing the two sounds together. So those are just some suggestions to help you encourage your children to put the two syllables together to form two-syllable words. I really hope that's useful for you. And I like to think about you jumping from sound to sound in the playroom. And remember, don't get discouraged. Sometimes our children respond very quickly to all the techniques I've just mentioned. Sometimes within the week, they're building their vocabulary once their language has been really, really responded to. Other times it takes a little longer. But we're all different and we all change at different levels. So the beauty of these techniques is that you're really consistent in really responding to their language. So some other questions. My daughter, hang on. Oh yeah, my daughter's 3 years old and mildly autistic. Her speech is echolalic right now. That's exciting because that means she can form whole words. And I can't get her to originate speech or answer me. So she only practices what she hears me say. Alright, the first thing here, if your children are echolalic, that's an exciting thing because they're forming words right now, and sometimes that's the first step. I know with typically developing children, that's that developmental stage that they go through. So with you, it depends whether your child has just begun being echolalic, or it's now 6 months or so when they're echolalic. If she's just begun, celebrate Let's really celebrate that and give her what she wants. Really show her that that is really, really effective. If she's been hanging out in this echolalic phase for a while, then one thing to consider doing is giving her choices. So when you're at the shelf, or if she wants something, and I would, if your child's echolalic, I would pick the thing that you know that she definitely wants first. So if she wants a particular doll, I'll pick at the shelf, I'll keep it on the shelf. I said, do you want doll? And I'll point to the doll. Maybe you can see, can you see me here? Yes? I'll point to the doll when I say doll. Or would you like triangle? And I'm really believing she wants triangle. No, I'm believing that she probably wants doll, but I'm saying I'm picking an object that she might not want necessarily for the second one, because if my child is echolalic, she's going to repeat me, and point to that and say triangle. If she says triangle, of course I'm going to cheer her, respond, you said triangle, here's the triangle. Oftentimes what happens is they might go, no, because she really wanted the doll, but she was just repeating. So I say, well, you told me the last thing, so I gave you the last thing. And then I'm going to try again. Would you like the doll, or would you like the bottle? She might say bottle, so I'll give her the bottle. Now, on the third attempt, I might say, would you like the doll? She's echolalic, so she'll say doll, so I'll give that to her. And then I'll communicate, and I'll say to her, you know, what happens here is that the reason it took so long to get to the doll is because you kept repeating what I said. And if you'd said doll straight away, then you'd have got it quicker. And then what happens over time is they get to see that I'm still responsive, because it's important to be responsive, but whenever I repeat the last thing, it takes a little longer to get what I want. Another question here. I see that Chetna is here. Hello, Chetna! It's very nice. I know you're in Britain, right? Send my love to you and to Neil. Okay, yes, this is the question that I think is probably a question for everybody here, which is, my little boy is 4 years old. He has about a 15-word vocabulary, and he uses them randomly, but probably very specifically for him, but usually appropriately. It's great. He cries and screams and points when he wants something, and usually refuses to talk. Will you address this? I think there's another similar question here, and it says, my son just turned 4, and when I start trying to teach him how to say the sounds, he gets disinterested or starts a temper tantrum. He wanted to go outside, and I can't read, but this is from Laura, so hi Laura. And the other question that I said is from Anne Carroll. Hi Anne Carroll. Alright, so this is part of the thing that we want to shift a little, that I talked about earlier, is that the reason why our children are crying, and you say a temper tantrum, so that might include throwing himself on the floor and using his little fists. The reason why they're using that is because they're believing, for whatever their reasons are, is that that's going to get them what they want quicker. Because in the whole history of their life, whether it's with their teachers at school, whether it's with their grandmothers, their cousins, their fathers, their sisters, their mothers, their friends, whoever it is, they're believing that they're going to get what they want quicker if they throw a little tantrum. Because some of the time what happens is people move faster when their child is crying. Now, this doesn't have to be all the time, because I'm sure you're thinking, well, I don't always do that. You know, some of the time I don't respond to them at all. But with our children, because it's challenging for them to speak, even if your child gets a response 3 times out of 10, it's worth them to try. Because imagine this. If I thought I was going to win $1 million by throwing a tantrum, and that happened once, maybe it happened twice, I might try again. And it might be worth really putting my heart and soul in if that was really going to happen. So, when your child is crying, know that, especially in the examples that you talked about, know that they're okay. That it doesn't necessarily mean they're mortally unhappy or that they're having a terrible time, but they're actually using it to communicate something to you. And in this case, they're pointing at something, they're communicating that they want something. And in that instance, if you think, oh, he's so smart, he thinks he's going to get what he wants by crying, you just want to shift a little and think, okay, so how can I help him understand that crying isn't going to get him what he wants as much as language? So, all the other times he's not crying and he's using our language, that's why we've got to respond and show him that we're really fast and that we really get him things when he's saying his sounds, even if we don't understand. At the times when he's crying, I want to be really loving towards him, really kind towards him. But that's the time when you want to be a little slow in your response. Not non-responsive, but slow. I might say to him, oh, I really don't know what you want here because you're crying. I might scratch my head a little and think, oh gosh, I really don't understand you. Could you take a deep breath right now and use your sounds? Could you use your sounds for me? That would really, really help me get closer to what you want. So I'm going to ask them to move towards what would be more useful for them ultimately. But sometimes our children, they keep on having that little tantrum no matter what we say to them. So that if that's the case, I might say, okay, so I love you. I know you're trying to communicate something. I'm just going to try and figure out what it is. Then I'm going to move really slowly, really slowly towards the shelf or to wherever they're pointing at. And I'm not going to get the thing they want directly. I might say, oh, I might pick the thing right next to it. Did you want the teddy bear? And then I go, no, I want the teddy bear. So I'm like, oh, you do. Well, it's clear that you don't want that. You could just say no. See, I don't understand what you want when you cry. Then I'm going to move slowly again. And maybe on the third time, I'm going to get them the thing that they want. And then I'm going to offer that to them. Did you want the bottle? And then if they take the bottle, I'm like, yeah, it's bottle. The word is bottle. I didn't know you wanted that because you were crying. You can use the word bottle. It's bottle. I might even ask them to say it right then. Go on, you say it. I'll get you 5 more bottles. And if they do an approximation of a sound or if they get anywhere near it, then I'm going to run to that shelf and get them as many bottles as I can. But the idea is to show them that crying, and really verbally tell them that crying, they get things really slow when they cry, but really fast when they use their sounds and use their words. So when they do use their sounds and words, you've got to move really, really quickly. Now, in terms of one of the questions, they were actually pointing to that thing. So I might move slowly to the shelf and say, oh, did you want the puppet? The word is puppet. You could say puppet. And ask them to say it. And don't be afraid to ask them to use their words. I've often been in the playroom with children who are really, really crying. And when I really ask them to take a deep breath and to use their sounds, sometimes it might take 5 minutes, sometimes 6 minutes. But children actually shift and change and use their sounds. But they're not going to do that unless you ask them to do that. I have really enjoyed being with you this afternoon. It has been really enjoyable for me. I really encourage you to really take these things that we've been talking about and really do them on a daily basis. Really do them in each session. Whether you're in the playroom or out of the playroom, these are things that you can do. Enjoy encouraging your children to speak. I also want to tell you, for those of you who haven't been here yet, that we have an upcoming startup. And in the startup, you'll hear different ways and added different techniques that you can use to encourage your child to speak, and also how to respond to them when they're tantruming, when they're doing the different challenging behaviors also. And that is, I've got it here, I think it's August the 10th, I believe, the week of August. August 11th to 15th is our next startup. I look forward to seeing you there. And our telephone number is 413-229-2100, and our website is autismtreatment.org. I send my love to you and to your children, and really enjoy all the sounds your children are making. Thank you.